Hello everyone, this is Mrs. Crawford, and this video is going to go over the quiz review that we handed out in class the day before our Unit 1.4 quiz. So I'm going to go through each of them, make sure that even if you think you know the right answer, that you please watch and check, because there's possibly something that you might have missed that you thought was an easy question. So first one, a lot of people I'm seeing get these wrong in class because you're using the picture instead of the equation, which is what you should be using. So if I look at my equation, it looks like A matches with A, B matches with F, and C goes with E. So that means when I look down here, I just need to use that to figure out what it should go with. So A goes with A, so I know the first letter has to be A. B goes with F, so I know that the line AB is congruent to the line AF. Even though it doesn't look like it in the picture, I'm trusting this more than the picture. Same thing here. I should go with I, H should go with P, and G should go with Q. So that means angle H, if I check here, angle H should match up with angle P. And yes, you do have to put that symbol there. If you just put the letter P, you're not going to get full credit because P is a point. It's not even an angle, so please be descriptive with that. Don't just leave a letter there. Number 3 is kind of a little bit more in depth than we might have practiced, but you're still using the same concepts we talked about when we did corresponding parts of shapes. First thing you need to do is fill in your picture with all this information. So RT is 20. Mark that side as 20. QT is 5x minus 5. AD is 2x minus 10. And DB is x. Okay, so I filled in all my information. Now I have to solve for the length of each side of the triangles. That means that every single one of these spots should be filled with numbers. Not a side, not an angle, not any of that stuff. I want a number to be filled in there. So I need to figure out how long are each of those sides. All right, well, let's look triangle to triangle. We've got one side with one tick mark here. And then we have one side with one tick mark here. That means that this side and this side equal the same amount. We've also got a blank side here and a blank side here, which means QT and AB are equal to each other as well. And then we've also got our double tick marks here. That mean these two are equal. Now this is the first time after we've been tracing that we see that both sides have something on them. It tells us that RT is 20 and DB is X. Well, if these two sides are congruent, what does congruent mean? Congruent means equal to each other. So if this is 20, so is this side, which means really that X has to equal 20. So I haven't even done any math yet. All I did was really figure out what should go where, and then do my corresponding parts to figure out what should match up with each side. So now that I know that this is 20, let's fill in my two sides that I now know. I know that this is 20, which means RT is equal to 20, and DB is also equal to 20. So I've just filled in 3 of my spots. Now I got to figure out the other ones. Well, I've got this red side here that says 5x minus 5. Well, I don't know what 5x minus 5 is supposed to equal, but what did I just figure out x has to equal? 20. Well, if x is 20, get rid of x and replace it with 20. Instead of 5 times x, it's really 5 times 20. This is called substitution. 5 times 20 is 100. Minus 5 is 95. That means that QT is actually 95 units. I know it seems weird, but that's how long it is. So in my box, I'm going to put that QT is 95. Now let's also make sure to match up our side. We said this red side here matches with this red side here. So this one's also 95. So AB, I can put 95 there. All right, now I have 2 sides left. One of them is empty, that's RQ. However, RQ is congruent to DA, and it says that that side is 2x minus 10. Again, I can't set this equal to something, but if I know what x is, substitute it in. That's the whole point of figuring out x. Instead of 2 times x, it's now 2 times 20 minus 10. So 40 minus 10, which is 30. So my two remaining sides are both equal to 30 units. So plot your pieces in the diagram, solve for x, substitute x into the rest. It's all corresponding parts. It's all that stuff that we had talked about before. All right, on the back here now, this is stuff that we've talked about, but we haven't explicitly done a question like this, so let me explain what it's trying to ask you. It says, state what additional information is required in order to know that the triangles are congruent for the reason given. The reason given is AAS and SSS. Well, what does AAS stand for? It stands for angle, angle, side. So look at your picture. Do you have a pair of angles? Yeah, you have one here, one here. Do you have the second set of angles? Yeah, there's marked here and here. So those are done. Do you have any sides marked though? No. Okay, that's what they're asking for. What other piece do I need? Well, I need sides. I know they're going to be congruent to each other. So which sides do I use? Well, I have angle, angle. The side should come right after it, so it's right here, ED. Same thing here. This is my purple angle that I started with. This is my second angle. The side should come right after it, so it's VU. And that's all it's really asking for. That would be my correct answer. Making sure that I put the bars above it, the congruent sign in the middle, all that stuff would have to match up. Now, there is a second option you could do with this one. Because angle, angle, side is a little bit more flexible, I could go angle, angle, side, and say it's EC. And then do the same thing here. Go angle, angle, side, and say VT. So either one of these options are okay. You don't really need to put both, but either one of them works. Over here, there's only one answer because it's SSS. There's not really flexibility with that. They give you one set of sides here. That one's done. They give you another set of sides here. That's done. Obviously, we're still missing our last set of sides, and it has to be this one, the only one that's left. So I would put down DF. So D to F is congruent to T to R. And there's my missing piece. So now down here is where we actually get into the proofs. Now on your quiz tomorrow, you're going to have one where they give you 3 proofs and you have to pick 2 of them. But for this one, obviously, we had to do both. Remember, you always start off with your given and check and make sure that it's actually drawn in the picture for you. Sometimes they don't do that. So I'm going to start by writing that out. VE is congruent to GF, just literally copying and pasting what they tell me. If you're thinking to yourself, this is a waste of time, I think this is stupid. It's not. It's important. In real life, you have to be able to name what they already tell you. If you're not aware of what's already been given you in a problem, you're probably going to get it wrong. So let's check and make sure. Does it actually mark it? VE congruent to GF. VE, GF, good. What about VF congruent to GE? Ooh, that is not marked here. So let's mark those. I'm going to put 1 tick mark for those. Okay, so now on these ones, the ones you're going to have on our quiz, you don't get told what type you have to pick. So you can do SSS, SAS, ASA, or AAS. I know we talked about HL, but I will tell you that that's not going to be focused on the quiz, so focus on these 4 instead. So looking at what we have 2 sets of sides, 1 pair here, 1 pair here. So automatically, I can get rid of these two. AAS only uses one pair of sides. Might as well use the two I have. ASA uses one pair of sides again. Might as well use the two I have. So now I'm down to one of these. Good process of elimination technique. Look at your picture. Is there anything obvious here that we could use that hasn't been explicitly stated? Hopefully, you're starting to see this in the pictures. Where is it overlapping? Where is the piece that's the same in both? Right here in the middle. Hopefully you caught that before I had to tell you it, because you really do need to know that. You have to know this property. What is that reason, by the way? Think of that while I write it down. So we have EF is congruent to EF. The reason is reflexive property. Anytime you have something overlapping in both shapes, automatically reflexive. It's not reflection. It's not that it's flipped over. It's that there's a piece that's the same in both, and the statement is almost reflected, really, is what it is. Okay, well, that is another side. So now that means I have a side, and a side, which means I'm probably going to use SSS. And I actually just checked off all three of my sides, so I can state my final statement now. So last step, use my prove statement. Triangle VFE is congruent to triangle GEF. Again, literally copying and pasting. Don't have to come up with it on my own. Reason is SSS. Boom, done. Triangles have been proven. Moving on to the second one. Again, let's start by actually putting the given in the picture. That's supposed to say R right there. So RPQ. Okay, so let's copy our given. FQ. Oops, that's a G, not a Q. Good thing Mrs. Crawford knows how to write letters. FQ congruent to PQ. So let's check the picture. Did they mark FQ congruent to PQ? Awesome, they already did that for us. They put that little tick mark there. So that's done. And they also tell us that angle DFQ, F is in the middle, so it's at F. So DFQ, F is in the middle of that name, so that's the arch right there. They didn't name this one for us in the picture. And RPQ. P is in the middle, that means the angle arch has to go at P. RPQ, right there. Oops. That should say number 1. Given. All right. So let's again assess what they've told us. Again, we're using either SSS, SAS, ASA, or AAS, and I would highly suggest writing those down before you even start the test. Just do a brain dump with those 4 things so you have them there ready to go. So they told you a side, and they told you a pair of angles. Well, doesn't really eliminate a ton, but it does get rid of SSS because I'd like to use the angle pair that they told me. So let's figure out what else we can use. What else is in the picture that's not obviously stated in the given, but is still congruent? Remember, I can't just make stuff up. It's got to actually be true. Hopefully, you're figuring out where it is. Right here, we've got this bow tie shape. What is the bow tie shape called? What are those angles that I'm talking about right here? Hopefully in your head you're saying them. Don't you dare write down angle Q is congruent to angle Q. You need to put 3 letters. So FQD is congruent to angle PQR. Notice Q is in the middle of both of those names. Hopefully in your head you remember that they are vertical angles. Okay, so check what we've got so far. If I look at this top triangle, I've got an angle, a side, and an angle. Same thing here, so I actually have enough to prove it by ASA. So last step, triangle DFQ is congruent to triangle RPQ, and it's by ASA. Don't know why my pen is malfunctioning. Okay, and then I've proven it. Feel free to go back, email me if you need, if you're still not understanding, quiz on Thursday.